think maybe we might wait one more minute and then we'll go ahead and get started. For anyone just coming in, I have put a bunch of links in the chat to resources that we're going to be talking about today. And we also encourage everyone to take this time to think about any learning objects, lesson plans, activities, anything like that, that you might be interested in uploading to the Sandbox.
Do you think we should get started or do we want to wait another minute? I know the numbers are kind of trickling in.
Maybe we'll just give it 30 more seconds and then we'll go ahead and jump in.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our presentation, Engage the ACRL Framework Sandbox. My name is Renee Kiner, and I have with me Jane Hammonds. We are going to be talking a little bit about how you can get more engaged with the framework. We are a part of the Information Literacy Sandbox Committee. We do have another person on this subcommittee, Elizabeth Camper, but she unfortunately wasn't able to attend today, so it'll just be Jane and I. So the first thing we're going to do just before we get into everything is just take a little maybe minute to decompress and just talk about how we're feeling today and how we're doing. If you just want to throw in the chat whether you feel like a sleepy sloth or a curious cat, busy beaver. I feel like there's a lot of people who are in that boat today, especially it being Wednesday and close to final time. Yeah, it seems like everybody is a busy beaver. Happy sleepy hippo sloth. I feel that way too, actually. Curious cat. Annoyed antelope. I like annoyed antelope. Seems like everybody's sort of a mix. Sleepy sloth. I'm feeling a little sleepy because I just had my lunch too. So it's 2 o'clock here. So I just ate a little bit ago. Okay. Well, that's good. So we'll move on. So again, for presenters, just so you can kind of see our faces, I'm Renee Kiner, a public services librarian at the University of Pittsburgh at Greensburg.
And I'm Jane Hammonds. I am the Teaching and Learning Engagement Librarian at The Ohio State University.
And Elizabeth Camper, the one who wasn't able to attend today, is the Information Literacy Librarian at the Southern Illinois University at Edwardsville. So going on for that, we're just going to do a quick opening poll. So for the first question, have you ever uploaded a resource to the Sandbox? You can just put Y or N in the chat. No. Okay. Okay. A lot of no's. Actually, that's kind of good since that's what we're going to be going over today. No and no. Okay. logged in and trying to look around. Okay. So have you ever searched, so I guess the second question is, have you ever searched for download statistics on items you uploaded? But if everybody's saying they haven't uploaded anything, that might not be a question you can answer. But if anybody has uploaded anything, have you searched your statistics? Okay. Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna talk a little bit. No, I've never searched my stats. Okay. So we'll be talking all about that. So the agenda items today, we're going to consider ways that you can engage with and utilize the sandbox, using the sandbox to identify collaborators, using the sandbox to support promotion and tenure, best practices for uploading and sharing resources, describing those resources, tagging those resources, choosing licensing options. We're going to go over some frequently asked questions, and then we're going to go through uploading a resource. So in case anybody did not get to attend our session on Monday and haven't actually used the Sandbox is a platform and repository for sharing framework materials. So the first thing that we're going to do is talk about identifying potential collaborators. So there's a couple different things within the framework that we could talk about. So you can try to find somebody who has similar topics to your research interests. So, maybe you're thinking about writing a paper or getting maybe doing a survey or something, and you don't want to go it alone, and you want to try to find somebody who's also working within those research interests. Or find lesson plans that somebody had put into the sandbox, and you just want to delve a little deeper, or talk about it, or even write about your experiences. And again, if you want to collaborate with somebody, all of these things that you can do in the sandbox. So and we'll go through this a little bit, but you're going to see there's a tab that's directory of contributors, and there's a link at the bottom that takes you directly there. You can put someone's name, like if you know the person's name and you are looking for their email address, you can type it right in there. Or if you find an interesting lesson plan or something actually in the sandbox, their name will show up under a contributor line. So all you have to do is click right in there, and you should be able to find them. And it'll also bring up anything else that they've worked on, so you can see their past work. So what we're going to do now is just take maybe 3 minutes. And if you want to go into the sandbox, then Jane had put all of the links into the chat. There's also a link here if you just want to type it in, or just go to the sandbox, just Google Sandbox, ACRL, and just identify a resource that you find relevant, and identify the contributor and check out any other additional contributions they have made. So again, we're just going to take 3 minutes and then we'll get back together. If you want to put anything in the chat, you're more than welcome to. So we will get back together in a few minutes.
If you have any problems accessing the sandbox, just please let us know in the chat while you're searching. Sarah has shared a resource that she found on sound science or fake news, evaluating and interpreting scientific sources. Yeah, that definitely sounds like a great resource. And others, please feel free to share other resources that you find that you think look really valuable.
Yeah, the 3 minutes is it's just about up, but I'd also be interested to hear how easy it was to like go through and find some information, and or how easy it was to find the contributor information. Easy, perfect. I actually very much like the avoiding plagiarism and citing sources as well. That's something that we're working on here. So I know exactly which resource you're talking about. The drop-down menus are very easy. Yes. Yes. Being able to just click on hashtags or anything that you're looking for is great. Okay. So I think we'll move on. I like that you allow items to be assigned to multiple types with it. Yeah. Yeah, that is, it is nice. It's very intuitive, and I like exactly what you said, that you can assign it to multiple things. So I'm going to move on for a second here and talk about promotion and tenure. So a lot of us in academic libraries are going through promotion and tenure, and some information that is helpful that you might be able to use in your dossiers. You can when you're uploading and publishing your creative work, can sometimes count towards tenure and promotion. So you're publishing open access with Creative Commons license. And we do have an example here of a citation that you can use using APA of something that was uploaded. So this is something, you're helping your library profession. You're offering information freely to others that might use it, which is very good, and goes into the next part, which is you can figure out your statistics, which is also very helpful. So you can see, where on the side it says downloaded 277, 108, 64. So you can see how often and how many times your resource that you uploaded has been downloaded. So again, helping the profession, getting the information out there, which is wonderful. So it's demonstrating how often your resources have been downloaded and show your impact. And so there's a link here, the Sandbox, how do I request usage statistics? There's a link here that you can put in, and then there's an FAQ page. And it's just a form that's going to ask you for your name and what you're looking for. It's pretty self-explanatory. And then you're going to get the statistic information that you need. And yes, somebody did put in a bunch of chapters from a book that you haven't been able to order yet. So that's great. So there's some great information and some timely information in there for you. So I'm going to, if no one has any questions or anything about the promotion and tenure, I am going to turn it over to Jane.
Thank you, Renee. So for this part of the presentation, we wanted to talk a little bit about more about you as a contributor to the Sandbox. And I did just want to mention again, as Renee mentioned earlier, this is the second part of a workshop series. So if you're interested in learning more about the general use of the Sandbox, we have the recording from the previous workshop that we can share with you. But for this part, we wanted to really talk about thinking about you as a contributor. So we're going to talk a little bit about some best practices for kind of uploading and thinking about resources. We'll give you a quick demo of uploading a resource so you can see how easy it is. And then we'll give you a chance if you are interested to upload a resource yourself. Just a few things that wanted to highlight and thinking about sharing your own resources through the Sandbox. Some just general questions to think of. One question that we've sometimes had is, what if it's not really closely related to the framework, the resource that I'm sharing? And one of the things that we do want to highlight is that we don't consider the purpose of the Sandbox necessarily to be teaching people about the framework for information literacy. So it's not like your resource has to be, authority is constructed and contextual, or, information creation as a process that's about that concept. But it can be much broader. So when we're teaching evaluation, when we're teaching searching, we're including those concepts of authority is constructed, contextual, searching is strategic. So not necessarily that it has to be about the concept, but as long as you see a connection to the framework concepts with the resource that you're doing, it's perfectly okay to go ahead and upload it. So you don't have to feel like this has to be, a very close connection to framework concepts. We do ask you to highlight the concepts that you think are relevant to the resource. But we did want to just mention that it's not necessarily, teaching people about specifically the framework concepts or the framework as a resource, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. If you truly think that your resource is not related to the framework for information literacy, there are other resources, other places where you might want to upload, Project Quora or perhaps Primo. Could be other places where you could upload and share your resources. So just wanted to briefly mention that. We wanted to talk about the various types of resources that you can upload. We're interested in lesson plans, we're interested in activities, all kinds of assessment materials, learning outcomes that your library has developed, conference presentations, slide decks, worksheets, rubrics. There's so many different kinds of resources that we are interested in seeing. So it's not like there has to be one specific format that we're going for. I think that no matter what your position is, you're probably creating some type of resource that might be helpful or useful. So just be aware that there's a wide range of resources that we are looking for. I'm thinking about the intended audience for your resources. This is a site that's intended for librarians. And some folks have also talked about sharing this with faculty members as well, especially if you've found some great resources, activities that you think your faculty members might want to do. They're perfectly welcome to use that as well. You do not have to be an ACRL member to use the Sandbox. So faculty, staff, others from your libraries can definitely use those resources. But I did want to mention that it's not necessarily intended to be a site that you would send students directly to, like as a tutorial or a video, something that you would post it up there like that. So that's not really sort of the audience that we're going for there. It is intended for audiences, instructors, librarians to share those resources, those teaching resources. This is a question that we got at our previous workshop, and I thought it might be helpful to highlight this as well, in case you were interested, whether there's any peer review process for resources that are uploaded to Sandbox. There is not. And so anyone is able to upload resources that they think are helpful. If you, again, are looking for a peer-reviewed process where you could upload and share your resources, I would recommend looking into the Primo database for that. And then I just wanted to highlight really quickly again that some of the different file types that are allowed to be uploaded. So text, JPEGs, docs, PowerPoints, Excel sheets. So there's a range of different types of materials that can be uploaded there. If you have any questions about whether or not you think your resource is appropriate to be uploaded, I would take a look at some of the other things that are on there and see if you think it aligns with those kinds of resources. And you can also email the site administrators as well if you're really not sure. But we encourage you to go ahead and upload your materials. So the process of contributing material is actually fairly simple. The one thing You do have to create an account to be able to upload resources. You don't have to have an account to search and to use resources, but you do have to have an account if you want to upload your resources. But it is a fairly simple process. We have a quick graphic that we put together last year, just kind of outlining the process. So you would just create your account. You have to give your title, upload a link to your content, and then it'll ask you some questions, resource type, frame, those kinds of things. You select the license that you would like to use, and then you just save. And it's actually a really quick process. Once you save, it immediately shows up on the Sandbox, and we'll show you that in just a second. So just a few things that we wanted to highlight in terms of naming your materials. If you did decide that you wanted to upload some resources, try to think of a title that's succinct yet descriptive. So, just a general, evaluation activity is not really going to be all that valuable. But if you can give a little bit more specific detail so that folks know how the activity might work, have a little bit of better understanding of what they might be getting with that activity, that would be helpful. Provide a good description of that resource so that when folks are searching for materials, that resource will pop up as one that is relevant to them. We encourage you to pick the specific information literacy frames that you think are relevant. You can select multiple frames, but we do want to mention that if you think it does apply to the framework as a whole, we ask you to select framework as a whole rather than selecting each separate frame. So you can include attachment or links. Just be aware that file attachments, it will show the file name. So make sure you're careful what file name you give it so that it's clear what that resource actually is. And you also have the option if you would like to add additional tags that can help when folks are searching for your materials. That will make it more likely that they are able to find your materials. And then just wanted to briefly mention the licensing options that we have available. You are encouraged, but you're definitely not required. You're encouraged to consider using a Creative Commons license. And we do have a link on the site where you can read descriptions of all of the different types of Creative Commons licenses that are available. And you can select the one that you think is most relevant to you. And that link is also in the links that I shared in the chat for everyone if you wanted to go and look at the different options that are available. But it's not necessarily required that you create a completely open license. You do have control over how you might want folks to share and use your materials. Okay, so before we jump into the demo, we'll just see if there are any questions that folks have about uploading their resources. I'm going to stop sharing for a second and then I'm going to reshare in just a second. 1 second. Okay, so hopefully everyone should now be seeing the Sandbox. If you're not, please let me know. Yes, great. Thank you, Sarah. All right, so I'm going to quickly go ahead and show you how to upload a resource. So I'm already logged in to my account here. And so if I would like to contribute a resource over here on the left-hand side, you'll see the option to contribute a resource. So I have a resource selected that I wanted to share on understanding and critiquing the peer review process. So I'm going to go ahead and add in the information about that resource that I would like to share. Right, so here's the option here. Once you have your description and your title, you can select the file or create the link that you would like to share your materials. I'm going to go here and go to my documents, select that file. You can see that I named the file the same name as the activity, so it's very clear what file that is for. Here I can select the resource type. And so this is, you can see the wide variety of different types of resources that you can submit. Everything from activities to blog posts, conference presentations, reflections, professional development material. And some of these areas, resources, we don't really have a lot of content there. So, you know, if you have great professional development material, for example, I think that's one of the categories where we don't really have tons of resources. We would love to see some of the unique file types, resource types added to the Sandbox. So I'm going to select this as an activity. And then I'm going to select the frames that I think that are relevant, which are information creation as a process, authority is constructed and contextual, information has value. So it's very easy to go ahead and select those frames that you would like. You can select a specific discipline if you think your resource is relevant to that discipline. If not, you can scroll all the way down to the bottom and there is a not discipline specific option. So I think that this is relevant for community colleges, or universities. So I'm going to go ahead and select all of those. And I think this is a classroom or course level, so I can select those as well. For a tag, I'm going to add in peer review. And then for this resource, I'm going to select a non-commercial license. Otherwise, I don't really care about how folks use my resources. So I'm going to do that. So very quick, if there's any questions about that process, please go ahead and add them to the chat. I'll go ahead and click save really quickly. And then what you will see is if you go now to the Sandbox resources, that shows up right away. So as soon as you hit save, it is there and it is in the Sandbox and available for other folks to use. Let's see if we have a question coming here. That's a great question. So Helen asked, what is the difference between classroom level or course level or program level? So my understanding of those differences would be, so classroom level might be something, just one specific activity that you do that when students may come in for a one-shot, that would be a classroom level activity. Whereas a course level might be something when you have been working with, collaborating with a course instructor to create resources that they are using in that particular course that might be used maybe across multiple courses in that same course, but multiple sections in that same course, for example, something like that. And then a program level, if you were working with a resource and you had developed, for example, a curriculum map of information literacy courses in the nursing program, that might be like a program level resource. So, and David asked, do additional contributors also need to have registered accounts? I don't think that they do if their name is just going to be listed as an additional contributor. I don't think that they need to have an account. But if they want to be searchable and be able to found in that contributors list, then I do think that they would need an account. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll stop sharing again, and then we'll go back out to our presentation. Okay. Hopefully we should now all be back to the presentation. All right, and we'll do slideshow. So at this point in the presentation, we wanted to give you all a chance to upload a resource. So we encourage you to take a minute or two to think about a lesson plan or activity that you have that you might be able to access really quickly, and think about uploading, going through that process so you can get a little practice uploading a resource. We recognize that not everyone may feel comfortable at this time uploading a resource, and that's okay as well. So if you don't feel comfortable at this time doing that, we encourage you to spend this time going ahead and looking through the Sandbox, looking at the different types of resources that are available, trying to find resources that you think that might be helpful to you, sharing some of those in the chat if you would like, and planning how you might want to go ahead and contribute in the future. So let's see if we had a question coming in. Okay, thank you, Helen. So we had a comment, I just created an account, but it said it's not activated yet. Not sure how long that should actually take. That's a really good point. I don't know if Tessa's on here today or all right, so Rosalind is going to look into that really quickly. So we'll give everyone a few minutes again to think about how they might want to contribute. Go ahead and upload a resource if you're interested in doing so. And if not, just continue to spend this time exploring the sandbox, looking for resources that you think are relevant. And if any questions pop up, please continue to add those in the chat. We'll give it another 2 minutes or so to about 2:35 or 2:36. And then we'll come back together and start wrapping up a presentation. Kathy shared, I'm just at the exploration stage. I'm looking forward to seeing what is available in this collection. Thank you for this introduction. You're welcome, Kathy. So Lenny, oh, got it already. Thank you. Wonderful. So Sarah just uploaded a resource, brainstorm station rotation. Wow, that sounds like a great activity. Give it another 30 seconds or so. Please feel free to share any resources that you uploaded. or any other resources that you found that you thought were really relevant or interesting looking.
We'll also take this time to mention in our presentation on Monday, someone was mentioning that they would like to see more STEM type activities and information. So if anybody out there is a STEM librarian or works with STEM and wants to upload, there are people who are looking specifically for that kind of information.
And another comment, as someone mentioned earlier, a lot of the recent resources were related to a book that has just been published on business information literacy. So if you are in a position where you're publishing books, and editing a book, chapters, and you are able to share those resources through the Sandbox, we would love to see those resources as well coming through. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think we will go ahead and move forward. Was there anyone else who was able to upload a resource? You don't have to share specifically which one, but just like to hear if there were anyone else who was able to. Okay, so our next question may not be all that relevant to folks, but if you were able to upload a resource, we would love to hear how easy or difficult you thought the process was. Or if not, and you have other thoughts that you would like to share about resources that you would like to see in the Sandbox or features that you would like to see in the Sandbox, please feel free to share those as well. We're thinking at the moment about the next iteration of the Sandbox. So if you have ideas after you've had a chance to look at it for features that you would like to see, please let us know in the chat. We'd love to hear it. We have other members of the committee here as well. So it would be helpful for us to hear that information. Okay, so just a few sort of wrap up comments based on the question that we had in our first webinar. So we don't necessarily go through and remove old resources that have been put in there. That would be the responsibility of the person that had posted the resource. But it is possible once you have uploaded a resource to go in and edit your resources. So it is a very quick process. You select your resources, view them, click edit, make those changes, and then you can have that new version of the resource as well. If you have uploaded something and you decide, I really don't want this up, or it's gotten too old now, it's not really relevant anymore, and it's very easy as well. You can go ahead and delete resources. So you don't have to feel that once you put something up there, you never have a chance to touch it again, and it's just going to be out there forever. You do have a chance to make those changes if you would like. And just wanted to reiterate again, Renee had already mentioned this earlier, but if you are interested in getting those statistics on resources that you've contributed, especially if it will be helpful to you to have, download resources that you can mention, in your dossier, we have that option as well. So I'll put all of those links in the chat there as well, so you can access. Oh, no, sorry, lost my comments. So that might. There we go. So here are all of those links again in the chat for everything that we talked about today. We would like to encourage folks. We love to continue to grow the Sandbox. And so if you're looking for an activity that you can do with fellow librarians, a summer retreat activity, something like that, we encourage you to think about planning an upload-a-thon. So everyone can get together, talk about the resources that you've created, identify ones that you think are really great, that you would like to represent your own work, that you would like to represent your library, and go ahead and work together to get those resources uploaded so that we can continue to build this out as a resource for all librarians. And we do have some resources linked as well there on if you're interested in doing that. We have put together some guidelines for how it might work. So if you do that, please let us know as well. We would love to hear how that goes if you decided to hold an upload-a-thon. As we come to the end, we're going to have some space for questions here. We do have a survey that we hope that folks might be willing to give just some quick feedback on the webinar today. So Alicia has put the link to that in the chat. So please, if you have time, just a few minutes to take that survey. And if you have any questions or comments, anything that you would like to share related to the Sandbox, you can email the site administrators, acrlsandbox@gmail.com. And then we will stop here and we will take any questions or comments, feedback that folks would like to share now. So Sarah asked, what would be the best way to upload, contribute a video by file, YouTube? So I think in terms of the file formats, and correct me if I'm wrong, that video, like an MP4 file is not one of the accepted file formats, but you do have the option to create a link. Let's see, I don't know. That's a really good question, Sarah. I don't know if anyone else who is on the committee has a great answer to that question. Because you can, when you upload your resource, you can link instead of uploading. So, but I don't know how, if that works exactly. Rosalinda shared, I think linking is the best way. Yeah. So as I went through that demo, you might have saw the option where you could do a resource and then a link. And that, yeah, that would also be a great option. You could upload a file and then have the link in that file. Absolutely. Thank you, Sarah. I don't know, probably that wasn't really a great answer to your question. You kind of answered your own question there, but thank you for sharing that. And Alicia shared an example of the video that's been added. So thank you for that. Well, that sounds like a really interesting topic too. Yeah, I have to check that one out. So we're coming up here on 2:45. We can hang around for a couple more minutes to see if there are any questions or additional thoughts. But we just wanted to say thank you to everyone for attending today. We hope that you find it helpful. We hope that you will consider contributing resources to the Sandbox in the future and incorporating the Sandbox into your instructional practices going forward. And Renee, did you have any final thoughts?
No, just thank you for attending, and I hope this was informative and that you use the Sandbox and upload your information.